Welcome to the Space Dreamers podcast, a Sumadre production.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Lift off and the clock has started.
Roger, 0J, and I feel fine. Roger, 0J, and I feel fine.
All right, welcome to the Space Dreamers podcast. This is a pretty exciting episode. We are back to the novels. This is ACC 12. This is Clarke's 12th novel in chronological order. We're talking about Rendezvous with Rama, which is a pretty famous book. Up there with Childhood's End, 2001, Rama, maybe Fountain's Paradise would be in that top most well-known and most well-regarded Clarke novels. Came out in 1972. Shoot, I better check that. 1973. There you go. Okay, 1973. So it's the novel follow-up to 2001. I am joined today by two co-hosts. I have Amy. Say hello, Amy.
Hello.
And Mallory.
Hello.
Hello. Mallory listened to the audiobook, correct?
Correct.
You used Audible?
Audible, yeah.
Okay. And Amy read the book, and I read the book.
Yep. Is it the second time for both of us, all three of us? Because Mallory read it, has read it.
Yeah.
Listened to it this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's second time for everyone?
It's my second time,
Yeah.
yes. Before we get into it, Amy,
Yes.
you spent a week post Full Metal Jacket. What do we
Yes.
think about that movie?
I really enjoyed that movie. I'm glad that I watched it in its entirety because I didn't think I had seen it, but then certain things I was like, I think maybe I have seen parts of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, what an interesting movie.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, so we had obviously talked about The Shining and 2001, so we were talking
Yeah.
about Kubrick. So Amy and I watched Full
Yeah.
Metal Jacket because she said she'd never seen it. And it is weird when it ends. You're kind of just like, huh.
Yeah.
It ends on the kind of just, I don't know. It's a weird movie, but
Yeah,
so
there
kind
was-
of when it's over, it's like we didn't even talk about it because it's like, what is there to talk about? You kind of just sit there through this crazy fucked up war movie and
Yeah. And like the beginning part is so very different from the second half of it.
Yeah.
And, even trying to like navigate some of the characters, like we were talking about, what's the name of the main character?
Joker.
Joker, yeah. Like even like kind of like what his like whole like MO was.
Right.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting movie to ponder.
right.
I don't know if it had all the like grandeur visually as the other movies that we just recently watched, but it was definitely very well crafted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just remember I remember the first half so well. Like
Yeah.
I know it by heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second half, there are moments that I memorized. Like basically anytime some song plays that you know.
Right.
Like the Bird is the Word song. And like that's what I was singing going to the chapel.
Right.
Like I just remember those scenes.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not here to talk about war movies. We are here to talk about Rendezvous with Rama. My initial impression of this book, reading it a second time, is that it is not as exciting because, and I remember when I first read this book, I wanted to meet aliens.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I went in. Not for a cylinder, for the aliens. It's a cool book. It's a good book, but I remember when I was done, I was a little disappointed. I didn't not like the book, but I remember even back then I was like, I want to know who built this thing.
Yeah.
And you don't ever find out.
Right.
So this time reading through, I knew that I wasn't going to find out. And so some of the mystery was lost. And also to follow up 2001 with this, like this is a very famous book, very well regarded, but it's just like not even remotely anywhere near as good in my opinion as 2001. Maybe you guys disagree. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I just think it's completely different. Like, it's not so, there's nothing really philosophical about this at all, like Rama. Like, it's very straightforward, kind of hard science fiction to me.
There's almost no, I had trouble finding, there's no passages that are like Clarke's amazing.
Yeah, I can't believe you said that because I was looking over like the tabs that I had marked in the book, and that's exactly the same thing I thought. It's like after, like while I was reading it, I don't necessarily know if I realized that, but like when I went back, I was like, boy, nothing really jumps out like that lyrical, epic, like paint a picture, like of grandeur.
Yeah, I agree.
It's weird.
Even, I'm trying to think. I was like, I think that the Rama takes center stage, the object itself.
Right.
So I'm not trying to knock the book. I'm just like, rightfully so, Rama and the way it works and the description of it is the whole central thing of the novel. So
Yeah.
I think when you're reading it, especially for the first time, if you're learning something about Rama, you're into it.
Yeah.
So this time around,
Yeah, because so much when you first read it, it's like so many things were being introduced, and you know, like you just spend the whole time like just like living in your head, just imagining like what this would be like.
right.
Yeah,
That
you just get like a visual imagery in your head of what it would look like based on his descriptions.
and it's fascinating, you know, like it's kind of like mind blowing when you read it for the first time. Then the second time, so much of that mystery is taken away.
Yeah. I don't even know. How do you guys want to do this episode? Because it's, should we go through the plot or, I will say the one thing, I was riveted for like the first 45 pages. I remember I read the first 45, 50 pages in one sitting. And it's really interesting to like learn how they discover it. Like that whole,
Yeah.
like realizing like evidence of alien life
Oh, yeah.
is really exciting, even if you've read it before.
Right.
But once they realize that it's dead, quote unquote dead,
Yeah.
then you're kind of like,
Well, let me tell you,
what?
after all that stuff, and they like get it into, like you just said, get into Rama and realize like that there's like that nothing's really there besides it. If they went up the staircase one more time, I was gonna scream and throw the book.
Just you could have just
Like-
invented an elevator, man.
Wow.
Like a little pulley system.
Or like
Yeah.
a jetpack or something. Jesus.
Yeah,
That
there's
was unbelievable.
the whole section's about like you have to like condition your calf muscles in order to
Yes.
even get down there
Oh my God.
efficiently. Like
I mean-
wasn't the whole crew like working out at one point to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
get
yeah.
themselves ready to go up
Right.
and down the stairs?
Yeah. But like, I mean, that whole concept of the what's up, what's down, like that was really cool. Like imagining and like I mean, I can't even imagine. Like I couldn't even imagine if you can't figure out what, like one minute you think you're climbing up something and the next minute you think you're falling off something. Like
Right.
I can't even imagine that. But like outside of that, you're right. I was just like, get on with it.
And and I think that people, one of the reasons people say this would make such a good movie is because if you just show it, you don't have to explain it. You know?
Yeah.
Like the last scene, one of the last scenes in Interstellar, when there is a Rama-esque object that he's inside of,
Yeah.
you just look at it and you kind of get it.
Right.
Especially if you're like a little bit sci-fi minded.
Right.
You're like, oh, it's an inverted world.
Yeah.
But to have to explain it, I just think this novel falls into that category of like why they say they don't like sci-fi is because everything just has to be constantly explained.
Right.
And kind of technical, too,
Yes.
with this one in particular.
Yes.
Yeah, and then when it's
Yeah.
not technical, it's like action and I'm bored.
Yeah, so that was the thing is like when you get to it's when they when Jimmy, right, is on the
Dragonfly.
the
Bicycle.
Yeah, the flying bicycle.
Yeah.
Like starting there and his adventure, it definitely gets like a little bit more interesting.
For sure.
But that whole part the second time around was like real hokey to me.
Yeah.
You
Also,
know?
why did he have the bike with him? You know?
He snuck it on.
Well, no,
he
remember?
snuck it
Yeah, he
on.
snuck
I
it
forgot
on.
about that.
Yeah, because he does it. He does it in like the Lunar Olympics or something or whatever it
yeah.
was. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so like that part, I was just like, oh Lord, like.
But I will say this time around, I will say two. I think we definitely, when I'm done with this, we should do a plot description because if you don't even know what the fuck is Rama, you're gonna be like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Two images in my mind that I was like, this would be amazing in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
This time around were the tidal wave.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm just picturing the way it would be filmed. Like, it would be if you could film it so that it was if you're behind the tidal wave, right? But you could see the curve.
Yes.
Like as it's rushing, going really fast, you could see as the world curves ahead of it.
Yeah.
That would be so cool to see with like big special
Oh,
That
effects.
would be really cool to see.
But even like that scene in the book though, like I was like, oh yeah, like I had kind of forgot. Like there were lots of details in it that I didn't forget. That I didn't remember. That I was
Right.
really excited to be able to read again. And even that part, I was like, oh my god, this is so exciting. And then I was like, oh no, nothing happened.
Right. Yeah, and that's another thing, dude. If Hollywood makes this movie, if Hollywood ever makes this movie, you know they're going to kill some people.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
Because, like, come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other image was, so I forgot that when they enter it, it's completely dark.
Yes.
It's black.
Yes, that was cool.
And then they leave it again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool because you can use this, because it would just be like a good, like, slow reveal of what they're inside of, you know?
Oh yeah.
Because you would have like the barely what you could see via the searchlight,
Mm-hmm.
and then they leave it, and then when they come back, all the lights are on, but there's the fog,
Right.
and I just love and like it would be so cool to see this in a movie when they're sliding down and then they enter the fog,
Yes.
and then they emerge, and then that would be like the epic shot of seeing
yeah.
Rama all lit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see on the screen.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But so let's give a plot description. So I thought in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
one part that really was cool, and I was like, oh, I'm going to love this more than I ended up loving it, was how they explain how the ship stays on the north side because they have those walls
Yeah.
to stop it from being pushed because of centrifugal force.
Yeah.
They have those little like things that stick up out of the wall of Rama,
Right.
so
Yeah.
that the ship is being forced away,
Yeah.
so it like rests against those. I
Right.
thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying is like my favorite part of rereading it, like even though the mystery was gone, which like killed some of like the like excitement for me, it was so neat to like pick out all those little details that like I definitely didn't remember because it's probably I was probably so overwhelmed with all of the information that I was getting that I only remembered certain things, and so then to like experience those details, like that was really cool.
And why? I don't understand why he like plants the seed of the monkeys, and then they're never used.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was kind of
Like,
weird.
why are the monkeys in the
No,
story?
I kind
at
of wanted
all?
to see them do a mission.
That's what I'm saying.
You know?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, what is the point of talking about it if that's all you're going to say?
Weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
And also, I really love the giant stain on the side of Rama and how it's never explained. Remember? They say that there's like like something splatted against it,
Oh,
Right.
but something massive.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
something-
right.
And that's how they determined that it was spinning, right?
Yeah.
From far away, because that would
Yes.
reflect light differently.
Yeah.
Like, that was cool, but again, like, never, like, I wonder what that was.
Yeah.
It's a big
I don't know.
bug, space bug.
That's what I'm saying. That's more interesting than the freaking whatever, the spiders.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what's so funny is that it wasn't until I started reading that stuff that I even remembered they did come across creatures.
Really?
Yes.
I definitely remember there being machines.
That part didn't stick with me.
And like, this is my question, dude. Why do they call those machines, like, why do they think that that's life? They're made out of freaking metal.
No, they can't figure
I
out if.
couldn't tell it first,
No.
right?
Remember, there's the whole part where she dissects
Yeah, and some
them.
of it's made of
It's
muscle.
organic. It's
Really?
organic.
They say that? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like they can't really. It's come to determine that they're biological robots.
Maybe it's like a Cylon.
Maybe.
They are. That's what it is. Cylon, cyborg. It's an organic robot.
Crazy.
Remember, it's what they're biots.
Yeah, whatever that means.
I don't know. I think
biological robots.
basically
BI, logical robot.
Nice.
OT.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what happens. So basically, there's this thing called Space Guard, which is set up, and this is what, the 2100s, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So it's deep in space. Some of the most interesting parts of this book was at the end when it explained how all the planets like interact with each other.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the Hermians,
Yes.
the people who live on Mercury.
Yep.
And I thought that was really cool. And it
Yeah.
was how it was like in the past, the United Nations had 172 members,
Right.
and that is absolutely ridiculous. Now there's like 8.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So, Space Guard is there to detect potentially dangerous asteroids or comets and stuff.
Yeah. Things whizzing by
Yes.
our solar system.
And Clarke explains in the beginning all the things that in the past that were like really devastating impacts on the Earth, and the whole point is just to try to avoid that.
Yeah.
So that's the point of Space Guard. Space Guard detects Rama, which is moving like a intentionally built object, like a spaceship or something.
Yeah. Isn't it? Don't they pick it out because it's like really, really big?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's moving in a straight line. It's not
Right.
moving like in an orbit of like a comet
Yeah.
around the sun.
Yeah.
And so they detect it, and they determine that it's going to round the sun and then leave, which is a pretty cool aspect of the novel, I think, that it's
Well,
like...
they think it is. They don't really know what it's going to do.
Well, right, but they're like, we have 3 weeks, basically, to
Right,
explore this thing before it
Yeah.
gets too close to the sun, and we'll die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's cool that it's like, this thing's coming and going, and there's nothing we can do about it, so let's study it for as long as we can.
Yeah.
And so the thing about Rama is it's a giant cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
It is 15 kilometers long and 8 kilometers from top to bottom. Correct? Is that wrong?
I think
20 kilometers by 50 kilometers.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
20
I was gonna
by
say,
50? Okay,
yeah,
my
it's
bad.
a lot. It's huge.
Right, my bad.
Yeah.
50 by 20.
Yeah, 50 long.
Right.
Yeah,
20.
so like the round
The diameter
open.
is 20
Yeah.
kilometers.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Or
So,
kilometers, whatever.
and there's like, it's featureless. There's nothing on the outside.
nothing.
And so then they find out that there's an airlock on one side, and they go in it.
Mm-hmm.
And Rama it's hard to explain it because it's just a concept that like I'm familiar with, and especially like if you've read the very famous book Ringworld, it's kind of the same thing. It's an inverted world, and it spins, so it keeps you against the floor, which is the inside of the cylinder.
Yeah, it's like the easiest way to imagine it is that that ride at carnivals or amusement parks,
Right.
where you're like you get it. It's what is the
Tilt-a-whirl?
Tilt-a-whirl, is that
Tilt-a-whirl?
where you get it
Yeah.
and you stand against the wall and then it like
Spins you.
spins around really, really, really fast, and then the floor drops out and you're still stuck to the wall.
Right.
You don't fall.
Right. Yeah, it's like that. It's
Yeah.
also like 2001, the little
Right.
but that's just one little one that's like whatever, like 30 meters.
Yeah.
This is,
Huge.
50 kilometers. So
Yeah.
they send, again, like 2001, they take some kind of mission that was already happening, and they say, you're going to go to Rama instead.
Yeah.
You're going to explore. And it's this dude named Commander Norton, and he's with like 30 people.
Yeah, there's
which
a
I
lot
thought
of
was weird.
people. Yeah.
And they just explore Rama. Like, that's the whole book,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And then, like, some...
Well, basically, what happens is it's like completely quote unquote dead and cold and lifeless, and then the closer they get to the sun, everything starts to like heat up and warm up, and
Right.
then that's when it wakes up.
Right. And that's actually another scene that would be so cool to see in a movie is when the ice breaks apart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was that was really interesting too, how on Earth ice melts from the top down.
Right.
Because that's where the sun is. That's where the heat
Right.
source is.
Yeah.
But on Rama, the sun is blasting from underneath all the ground.
Yeah, like the outside
Right.
walls. Yeah.
The outside of Rama is the bottom of
Right.
the floor that you're standing on if you're in
Yes.
Rama. And it is important to understand that when you're standing in Rama,
Mm-hmm.
I think he says that it feels like flat.
Yeah.
Like visually, you think it's like a flat plane.
Because it's so big.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so Rama's dark when they get there, and I don't want to explain all the details. There's too many details. The entire
there's
book is like an explanation of how
and
it works.
Right. And again, that's what makes it so cool, is learning about all of these different details and imagining what all of it looks like.
Yeah, and I guess what's really cool to point out is that when you enter the very center of the circle,
Yeah.
so there's no gravity.
No gravity. Yeah. It's
So it's like the further you go towards the plane,
right. Which
the
the
more
plane is
gravity
the are
there
the
is.
is the outside like walls.
Right. The
On
inside walls.
Yeah, the inside walls.
Yeah. And there's the cylindrical sea, which is like a band of water in the middle,
Yep.
and there's one island on it,
Yep.
and there's also 6 lights that act as a sun.
Yeah.
So like if
like
you're
strip lights.
Yeah, so if you're standing next to a light, that is the sun for whoever is on the actual opposite side of Rama.
Right. Yeah.
And the light that they're standing next to is your sun.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and they also there's like weather in there, and
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the part I liked, was the hurricanes in the ocean.
right.
Thought that was interesting.
What else is there to say about it? I don't even know what to say about this book. I don't love this book. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I was bored as shit reading it this time. I was very bored.
I feel like I remember really liking it when I first read it, but also felt a little disappointed at the end. Yeah, because you don't get to like ever meet a ramen. You know, it's just like, oh, there's no one here. But it is really fascinating to just kind of. It's like you get to peek into their world a little bit without giving too much. And well, we all know there's 2 more books after this too. So
3 more.
3 more. Excuse me, 3 more.
I'm trying to find. There's a line at the very end that sums up my experience with this book that one of the characters says. Basically, he uses the word anticlimax.
Well, it's really funny because at the end, they realize that what they realized is that Rama had no intention of hanging out, because like there's speculation throughout that like maybe it's gonna like stay in the solar system and you know all this stuff. So really, they figure out that the only reason why it came to our solar system was to refuel using our sun and then just keep on going. And so my favorite part is at the very end when it said, when it says,
He had succeeded on this mission beyond all reasonable expectation. What his men had discovered in Rama would keep scientists busy for decades, and above all, he had done it without a single casualty. But he had also failed. One might speculate endlessly, but the nature and the purpose of the Ramas was still utterly unknown. They had used the solar system as a refueling stop, a booster station, call it what you will, and had then spurned it completely on their way to more important business. They would probably never even known that the human race existed. Such monumental indifference was worse than any deliberate insult.
so like,
Yeah, I marked that line. That last
Yeah.
line is amazing.
Yeah. it's a
so
good
like
line.
it's just so great because you know, like here we are thinking like, oh, they're going to come and attack us, or, you know, they're going to come save us, or they're going to impart their wisdom on us, or, you know, all these things when really they don't even care. They don't even care about us.
Yeah, and like since we've only read this one book, like we don't even know if the Ramans are still alive.
Right.
Yeah.
They could be extinct.
Exactly.
And so the idea too is that eventually, once Rama starts to wake up, all these like interesting changes occur, and then these biots come to life, and they're basically like robots. So the cylindrical sea has like microbes in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like alive. They call it
Yeah.
like a soup of some. What is it? They call like a organic soup,
Yeah.
which is deadly to humans. Oh, the other thing is that there's oxygen in Rama.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that they determine comes from the cylindrical sea, and I
Yeah.
guess they just determined that Ramans must also breathe oxygen, which is weird.
Yeah.
I'd be very curious to read the
I mean,
sequels and find out why that is.
Everything about Rama is speculation, and I
Right.
think that's kind of like what makes the book work, is because like Clarke didn't have to make any like firm like declarations about like what an alien race would be like. Like it's all mystery.
Right.
Like to us, to the people in the book, like you know, they see these things and they meet these, creatures, the biots, and, like they see what's going on around. They get little clues, but they ultimately cannot put any of it together.
Yes.
I mean, basically the biots are just Roombas.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Arthur C. Clarke basically came up with Roomba back in the 70s.
Right. I thought the starfish was kind of cool, like the 9-legged thing in the ocean.
Yeah, I thought all the biots were really interesting.
Yeah.
Like just like how they interacted with the people, how they just like completely ignored everybody and just did their job, and how they like each seemed to like kind of have a task that they did, like cleaning and polishing and just like observing and reconnaissance.
It was interesting, the whole how there's like really no waste in Rama. It seems like maybe Clarke
right.
was hinting at like a perfect world.
Yeah, like don't they take everything back to the sea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right when Rama's about to leave, everything just goes to the sea.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They like self-destruct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they'll just be rebuilt.
Right.
Kind of like Cylons.
Right.
Yeah.
But like and I thought it was really interesting, the one that was like broken. He said there was one that was like a bulldozer that
Yeah.
was broken, so it was like going in circles, so the crabs came up and broke it apart.
Right.
And brought all its little pieces to sea, because like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't feel pain.
No,
And it
yeah.
is also interesting. I mean, again, like the way that the book is, like Arthur C. Clarke doesn't have to get into like how they were created, because like they don't ever see them. They just like they don't see them being made or born, or like they don't
Well,
see
yeah,
them coming
that's-
into existence.
Yeah, but at a certain point that gets annoying. Like
That's what I'm
all the-
saying. Like it's kind of like
all the buildings don't have any
cop-out.
openings.
right.
So where are they
Yeah.
coming from?
Yeah.
And like the tunnels that, like, where are those going to?
Right.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
because
don't
they
know.
talk about the tunnels
And then the
in
one
the sea.
flower.
Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't get
yeah.
the flower either.
I
Wasn't there dirt?
Yeah. Oh, that was such an interesting. That was what was like really fascinating, was after Jimmy crashes and then he starts like wandering around, and how like it looked like kind of like farmland. He described it like it looked like farmland, like it was segmented out into like squares or
Right.
whatever. But like each one that he came upon was like had something different going on with it, and
Yeah.
like that was really weird. Like the one that was like full of like crystals or something, and then one was like a like completely blank, but it had like a spongy surface, and then the flower, the one that the flower was growing in, like it's like, but what was all that stuff?
I guess you just got to
You
read
know.
the sequels to
Or
find
maybe
out
they're
Yeah,
just
stuff
maybe.
about.
resources for the ship. Who knows? Yeah. Because it seems like everything about Rama is supposed to be like a fully functioning closed circuit
Right.
that constantly can regenerate over and over again. That never would like expire in any way.
I did like too how the cylindrical sea, how they at first they're like, well, there's no way this thing can go really fast because it has water in it,
Oh right,
and then they realize the south end of
yeah,
the sea, the wall that greets the sea, it's 50 kilometers, isn't that right?
Yeah, something like that.
yeah,
Is
like really
ridiculously
tall.
high,
Yeah,
which
really
means
high.
that means that the thing can go really fast and the water will just push up against the wall and not
right,
spill.
right.
I thought that was pretty cool.
And I like how they don't understand, like they can't figure out any way that like how it is creating the propulsion. So then they're just like, well, it has to be a space drive, and like, you know, they're like Newton's turning over in his grave, and
Right.
you know, like that's what they figure that's what the spires and the spikes are at the south end.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, those
Clearly,
are
that
neat.
was like how it drove. That's
Right.
like what gave
the
it its propulsion.
system.
Yeah.
And I thought, I mean, just like everything Clarke writes, there's like almost no consequence kind of to anything that happens.
Yeah.
So the whole going to destroy the missile was not particularly interesting, but the idea behind it, the fact that
Yes.
like the whole politics of like
Yes, the politics are really cool.
Mercury realizing this is within our this is within our space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have say over what we do based
Right.
on the rules that we all agree on. So
Yeah.
y'all
Right.
can't say anything to us when we try to blow this thing up.
Right.
But then, of course, they sabotaged that idea.
Yeah.
I just love that whole thing. Honestly, the Mercurians, or the Hermians, as they call them
Yeah.
in this book, were the most interesting thing. I do like these couple paragraphs right here I want to read about them and like the psychological thing of like, dude, they're not even human anymore. If you're living on Mercury, like you're something else, dude.
Yeah.
It says they pretended to despise the soft. He's talking about Venus. How
yes.
Venus has not been tamed yet,
Yes.
but Mercury somehow is, even though
Right.
it's way closer to the sun.
Yet in matters that really counted, they were tough. The psychological pressures of that ravening star so close at hand, the engineering problems of tearing into a stubborn planet and wrenching from it all the necessities of life, this had produced a Spartan and in many ways highly admirable culture. You could rely on the Hermians. If they promised something, they would do it, though the bill might be considerable. It was their own joke that if the sun ever showed signs of going nova, they would contract to get it under control, once the fee had been settled. It was a non-Hermian joke that any child could show signs of interest in art, philosophy, or abstract mathematics was plowed straight back into their hydroponic farms. As far as the criminals and psychopaths were concerned, this was no joke at all. Crime was one of the luxuries that Mercury could not afford.
Like that alone, I would rather read a book about Mercury than Rama.
Right?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
totally agree.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
So
There was another part in it that I thought, like, I think there are like the things like you're talking about that happen outside around Rama, like in this futuristic world, are definitely very interesting. Like, I am definitely really interested in what this future is like. As cool as Rama is, I think the second time reading it, I was like, okay, I know what's going on in Rama, but like, what is going on in this world?
yeah,
You know? So like you said, like the political stuff is really interesting. All that stuff about the Hermians is really interesting.
Commander Norton having two wives and separate families, and
Oh,
that's
yeah,
perfectly
that's right.
okay.
Yeah, on different planets,
On different
right?
planets.
Earth and Mars, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's crazy. And then there was another interesting part. The like what was it? The Rama committee.
Yeah.
And there was this one paragraph that I thought was interesting. It goes,
There was a rustle of excitement among the other scientists on the committee. Most of them had felt that the astronomer, with his well-known cosmic viewpoint, was not the right man to be chairman of the Space Advisory Council. He sometimes gave the impression that the activities of intelligent life were an unfortunate irrelevance in the majestic universe of stars and galaxies, and that it was bad manners to pay too much attention to them. This had not endeared him to exobiologists such as Dr. Pereira, who took exactly the opposite view. For them, the only purpose of the universe was the production of intelligence, and they were apt to talk sneeringly about purely astronomical phenomena. Mere dead matter was one of their favorite phrases.
and I think that brings up an interesting point, like that you can look at the universe in two sort of different ways, which I think actually kind of correlates to the movie that we watched.
Oh, yeah, I think some things we've talked about correlate.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
yeah, definitely. And I thought that was like really interesting that like, there are two ways to look at the universe, and one of them is that we are not unique, and the other way to look at it is that we are unique, and that the universe is not, it's not out there, its purpose is not to create and cradle life. The
purpose of the universe?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that like this really is like very weird that this happened.
Honestly,
I don't see how it's possible.
I think I thought about this book. I thought about this concept because of this book, because it came to me recently, and I've been reading it because I've recently been reading this book.
Yeah.
It is, and I've thought this before. It's not like a super unique thought, but
yeah,
it is insane, like how people who aren't religious or don't believe that we were created by a God,
mm-hmm.
we're constantly thinking and talking about like what else is out there and how we're not special,
right?
And how it's all maybe an accident,
right?
But then if you really stop and you think about Earth,
yeah,
next to all the other planets,
yeah,
it's like this is really fucking special.
Yeah,
it is fucking teeming with life.
Yeah.
Even if humans weren't here, man. Like,
definitely.
Just grass. Like,
Right.
It's crazy.
Bugs, yeah,
Everything.
Single-cell organisms.
It's pretty crazy. But then at the same time, we have no concept of how fucking long this solar system has been active. And
I know.
people often say that Mars was probably at one time just like here. You know what I mean?
Isn't that wild?
So it's really, it's just
Yeah.
like when, not where, but when.
Right.
That might be the real thing with the universe is not where, but
Right.
when.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just basically everything having to come together in a homeostasis to make it work, and that just takes the right events happening at the right times in space.
Yeah, and maybe it is just sort of some kind of cycle, millions of years into the future, this planet's going to look exactly like Mars does now,
Right.
where there's
Yeah.
like no trace that anything ever existed.
Right. Yeah, it's a trip. But I have a dope paragraph I want to read about. I like how, like, if you're a good enough writer, you can just, like, you could talk forever about, I don't know, like how you would reach Rama and like who would go and why. But Clarke kind of just throws it out of the way, in that he just goes,
Even with all the extra propellant, it had been a long, hard chase. Rama was already inside the orbit of Venus when Endeavour caught up with it. No other ship could have done so. This privilege was unique, and not a moment of the weeks ahead was to be wasted. 1,000 scientists on Earth would have cheerfully mortgaged their souls for this opportunity. Now they could only watch over the TV circuits, biting their lips and thinking how much better they could have done the job. They were probably right, but there was no alternative. The inexorable laws of celestial mechanics had decreed that Endeavour would be the first and the last of all men's ships to make contact with Rama.
that's just so good. That's really good. I like it.
That is good. That is what constantly, I guess, impresses me, that I am by no means like a science person. Like, I don't, meddle in mechanics or engineering or,
Right.
like I don't do, like, I don't know, like, I mean, I'm interested in how things work, but like, I don't like do that kind of stuff. But like, Clarke makes it so accessible. Like, how did I read this whole book and like understand like all the science stuff that's in it, like the hard, like what we've been talking about, like the hard science fiction, like
Right.
he makes it like so easy to read or to grasp, or I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So I think the term they use is he popularizes science. And the person who, like, the one, and it's, the whole point is that you know who they are because they do this. And the
Right.
person now is Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's his whole thing, is making it accessible to the layperson.
Right.
Kind of
that's-
like Bill Nye the Science Guy when we were kids.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And that was who Clarke was, or that's what he was considered at the time.
Yeah, okay.
He was making it accessible.
Yeah.
And, so yeah.
Because this is this is very, like, technical. Like, I think we just said that when we first started. Like, it's very technical.
right.
You know, like, you have to, like, wrap your mind around, like, a lot of different, like, because the whole thing the entire thing takes place in space. You're
Right.
on, like, a flying object, and, you know, like, so it's just interesting that, like, outside of it being, like, an adventure, mystery sort of story, there's, like, it's a very hard sci-fi
Right.
thing, but, like, I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I will say, since I read this book for the first time, and since I've finished all Clarke novels, or maybe one I missed, I read a book called Ringworld. Ringworld is amazing. Okay.
Wait, who wrote it?
Larry Niven.
Is it
Is he your-
old?
Yeah.
New?
I can't remember when it came out,
Yeah.
but it's old.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So it's about it's like Rama, but it's skinny. So it's a ring.
Oh, a ring. Okay, yeah.
It's an inverted world and a ring.
Yeah.
And this book is not like, it's hard, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not like Clarke. Like, it's long and it's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And the four main characters, I think two are human. Mm-hmm. One is like a giant cat. It's like a humanoid cat thing.
Oh.
And he's like not a nice dude. He like threatens to eat them multiple times,
Oh.
but like they got to go do this thing together. And the third character, I'm pretty sure, is telepathic,
Oh.
and it's like a tripedal, really ugly thing with like one eye and a beak.
Oh, okay.
And they all go on this journey, and they basically rendezvous with the ring world.
Oh.
And it's really good. And the ring world is more of it is explored and explained, I think.
Is it inhabited?
No. Well, I can't quite remember. If
Yeah.
someone's listening to this and they're a sci-fi fan, they're probably like, "You're a dumbass." This book also has 3 sequels.
Oh, wow, okay.
The second book, I think, is called Ring World Engineers. So it's like about who built it. But like, the thing about Ring World is it is positively massive. It is bigger than you could even imagine, dude. It is like you could, like, the surface area of Earth would probably fit on the surface area of where you can live on the Ring World like 1,000 times.
Wow.
Like, going from just one edge of the ring to the other edge, like this way, like going this way,
Yeah.
would take you forever. And there's one thing, I'm going to ruin something, but I don't care because it's just awesome, is like, there's one mountain on Ringworld that is ridiculously large. Like, it goes to a point,
Yeah.
and they like can't figure out. They're like, why is there this one spot where this mountain is just like stupid large? And then at the very end, I forget how or why, but they go to the top of it,
Yeah.
and they realize it's a meteor punctured it from the other side
Oh, that's crazy.
and came out.
Oh.
So it hit the bottom,
Oh,
the back
neat.
of the ring world, and
Right,
it came out the
right.
front.
Yeah.
And in doing that, the whole like
Thing.
structure stretched up
Oh.
and then let the meteor through.
That's cool.
Ringworld was a total trip, and I loved it. And I would love to eventually someday read the sequels.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anything else you guys want to talk about Rendezvous? I mean, if you've never heard of this book and you're listening to this, like, definitely go read it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you have even probably like a passing love or knowledge of sci-fi, you either know what it is or you've read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth reading. It's interesting and it is entertaining. It leaves you wanting a little bit more, but that's why it's got sequels.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think too, like the metal, I don't know, like little robots walking around. It's not that interesting to me. If you showed it in a movie, it would probably be cooler.
I feel like in the 70s, it probably would have been more interesting. I think we're so used to seeing that stuff in
Yeah.
movies
Yeah,
and
you're right.
books now that it's not magical for us anymore.
True.
Yeah.
You know, you
But-
got to think
but
about
again-
technology back then was nowhere near what we have now. So
again, though, I mean, reading it the first time, I just remember being like, oh my Lord, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. It's such an epic adventure when you read it for the first time. Like, I feel like I wish I hadn't. Like, I wish this was the first time, because I'd be like way more jazzed, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember being so jazzed about it.
And I think for a lot of people, this concept is first introduced to you when you read this book.
Yeah, probably.
So
Yeah,
if I know when I see the end of Interstellar, I go, hey, that's Rama.
right.
Right.
So
Totally.
if you've
And there are other
Yeah.
there have been other films since then.
Clarke also is not who came up with the Rama idea.
No, probably, yeah.
He just popularized
There
it.
you go.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there have definitely been other films. But it's interesting, because it's like I probably wouldn't have like been so interested in the things that I saw without having spent so much time in Rama
Right.
and having it like explained to me, because the science part is explained. Obviously, like the alien part is not. That's all mystery. But like the science part of what makes Rama work is, which is cool.
And I think at the end, without giving too much away, like the people eventually realize they don't have much time, so they're like, okay, we got to get in one of these buildings. Like,
Oh yeah, they do
let's
break into it.
throw respect
Yeah.
away. Which, okay, when I'm reading it, I'm like, douchebags, don't do that.
I
Come
know.
on. But I have a different opinion now.
Yeah.
So when I think about it, say we send a satellite out to one of the planets, Jupiter or something,
Yeah.
and it's doing its thing far away from us, and then one day we go to Jupiter and we intercept it. And imagine there's a perfectly cut little rectangle on it. We'd be like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Something that's not us
Yeah.
Oh,
found
you're
this thing and
right.
fucked with it.
That's a
Like,
good
Look at this
perspective.
awesome. Like, we would be like, that is fucking awesome,
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't think of that.
right?
Yeah, they're so concerned with not like leaving any evidence behind that they were there. Like they're so concerned about like the space diplomacy or whatever. But I didn't think about that. That is really cool.
That would be the coolest thing ever if one of our satellites had evidence that not humans
Yeah.
tampered
Yeah,
with
had
it.
tampered.
Yeah.
You're right.
You know?
Yeah.
So
And it's funny because he does say something. Doesn't Norton say something like, "I hope they'll forgive us because it'll be in the name." Like they'll have to know it was in the name of science.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh wait, actually, I want to talk about the fucking termite argument.
Oh yeah.
No, I do
Sure.
not agree with that at all.
Yeah.
I remember we read that story, Mallory, about
Uh-huh.
termites.
Termites. Yeah. I
Clarke
thought it
was like
interesting you
obsessed
brought
with
it up.
termites.
Really?
He's a little
Yeah,
obsessed
dude.
with termites. Yeah.
Wait, that was a short story?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was about how
The
termites.
tenant, right?
Huh?
Was it the tenant?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the tenant or the new tenants.
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
It was about how termites could easily take over the world. They just didn't need to.
Oh,
And so there was a
right.
scientist who introduced fire to termites.
Oh.
So they were like, "Oh, bad idea."
Yeah.
But I did. The only thing, like, I agree that I don't agree with that statement in the book, but I do agree with the question posed, which is what degree of cooperation or understanding would even be possible between human beings and termites.
Right.
And that is something that brings, we bring up that, like, why do we think that whatever other intelligent life that we could possibly meet, why do we think we'd even be on a plane together that we could make any kind of connection?
Right.
We might not at all.
You know what else is interesting is like it goes like with the whole like there's the argument that it is self-centered to assume that aliens would even be interested in Earth.
Yeah.
And there's arguments for and against that.
Yeah.
But we humans are very self-centered. I guess rightfully so. We're the only ones who build shit, and there's
Right.
like millions of species who don't do what we do. But we always make that connection, right? Of like, what happens when you just accidentally step on an anthill? Okay,
Right.
literally the other day I did that. Okay,
Yeah.
and I looked down and I was like, damn, it was flat. Okay, I come out the next day, I look at where I stepped, and there's a new anthill.
Oh yeah.
Like they just came out of it, like they built it in the dirt anyway. You step on it, it's not doing anything. You stepped on an anthill. The ants don't care. The
They're
ants are just
ticked
like,
off. They have more work to do.
yeah, they're
That's
just like,
it.
this is what I was born to do, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, which is essentially what Humans do. We keep getting blown over by tornadoes and hurricanes, and we
No,
just
we just
keep
rebuild.
building houses in the
True.
same places.
Right.
Very true. It's like
It's
New
interesting.
Orleans, like it's
Yeah.
below sea level.
It will always be
It will
below
always
sea
be,
level.
and
Right.
probably will continue to get worse.
Right. But yet we keep just like persevering.
Mm.
It's interesting. So I think in that sense, like with this book, you definitely have two different things going on that I don't think I realized when I first read it. But you've got the whole mystery of Rama, but you also have all of these like bigger ideas about like alien life.
Yeah. I think in the middle for me, I didn't totally hate the book, obviously. Second time reading it. I think the beginning is really interesting.
Yes.
And the end, when it does get into like the politics and all
Right.
these theories, that's when it becomes interesting again.
Well,
the middle with the dragonfly and Jimmy
Yeah.
is just a little.
It's
you
just like an adventure story, Jimmy on his flying bicycle.
It's a good way to introduce the biots, though.
Right. But
Yeah.
I think now talking about it, I'm realizing that that maybe like all the technical Rama mystery stuff overshadows some of the bigger, more important concepts that are going on in here.
right.
I could see that, yeah. Because you're so focused on like all that technical
Yeah.
stuff, you're bogged down with that you can't really
Maybe
look at the little.
Yeah, maybe there isn't enough of a balance. Like if he backed off it a little bit, like, maybe the stairway like 2 times instead of 30, then, more things could have been expanded upon that like we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One super nitpicky detail. You know how they're like the cylindrical sea is poisonous. Like, don't even get any in your mouth.
Yeah.
And then the kid jumps in, and I have no problem with the kid jumping in if he gets out real quick. But then they're like, he could only open his eyes for a
Yeah.
second. It's like, don't open your eyes at all.
Like
Wouldn't that kill you?
Yeah, I imagine his eyeballs just like melting out of his skull.
Yeah,
Or even like your skin, like, it's an
Yeah.
organ. It's an organ. So like
it's
you jump in
supposed to-
water that's contaminated.
Yeah, I do
Getting in
totally.
somewhere.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with you.
I also thought it was a little weird how, like, when Jimmy's getting in the tunnel, they say he took off all his clothes to get in the tunnel, but then when he has to jump off the cliff, he takes off his shirt to use as a parachute. I'm like, y'all kind of missed a detail there.
Maybe you probably put it back on.
I guess, I don't know.
Oh yeah, he must have.
Yeah.
I also think that like a lot of time is spent at the end of like the north end where they're allowed to come into Rama. A lot of time is spent there, but like I feel like it would have been like the whole time reading this again, I was just like, wouldn't it be cool if like there was a part where they like looked up and someone was like on the ceiling? Like they never talk about that.
Like another human?
Yeah, like they only talk about like there's so the action is focused on north and south, so one end and the other end. There isn't a lot of action focused around the circle. So like it would have been interesting if like a party had like gone off to the west and then ended up like above them, but like no, they don't. He doesn't talk about that. Is it because it's too big?
Well, I think once the thing wakes up, there's weather. So I don't think you could. I think there would be clouds above you.
No, there's only clouds in the center. I see what you're saying.
When
So
they
you wouldn't be able
slide
to
down,
see
they
any.
go
You wouldn't.
through clouds.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to see anybody above you. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I still think it would have been neat
Yeah.
if like your buddy was up there on the top,
I think if they make a movie, they should say no clouds.
or just like
I would like
wispy clouds, not like
Right.
dense cloud cover.
because being able to see. Don't they see the tidal wave?
Yeah, they
above
do.
them?
So obviously you can see that.
Yeah, yeah.
So like it would have been neat.
And
like
also, wait, what is when they explain it visually? It's cool, but don't they describe a waterfall coming out of the clouds?
yes,
Where is that coming from? I don't
that
get that.
confused the heck out of me. That's the one thing I could not.
Like I believe rain,
visualize.
but why would there be like a waterfall?
I don't know. And it's only mentioned once.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
I think it's just to explain the Coriolis effect,
Probably.
Yeah.
which is cool to once you
Yeah.
hear it, but then you don't want to hear about a fucking
Yeah.
curvy waterfall.
Because I mean if we lived in Rama, like I could live like in one part of it and you could live like in another part of it and I could like look up in my sky, which is still your sky,
Mhm.
but we could see each other, we could wave.
Yes.
Isn't that
True.
crazy?
It's very crazy.
But yet, when you're up there, it's flat, and when you're down there, it's flat.
Yeah, I mean, it's the opposite of a sphere, of being on the outside of a sphere. You
It's
know
so
what I mean?
cool.
Like a planet.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
It's really neat.
I agree. And it's got a damn good title, Rendezvous
Oh,
with
yeah.
Rama.
Oh yeah, I like
You
that.
know, it's very
oh yeah.
good. And Sita, I like how they call it Sita,
Oh right, yeah.
because it's like the Hindu gods.
Yes.
That was cool too. How they explained like
Yeah.
that we've exhausted the Greek and Roman
Yes,
gods. Like
I love
we're
that.
on to
You're
the
totally
Hindus
right.
now.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I'm pretty sure in Spanish, this is called Cita con Rama, because Cita is like a date. I think I've seen that, so it's funny because I read Cita. I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Is it spelled the same?
SITA.
No, it's a C.
Uh,
Oh.
But
Interesting.
Cita, either way.
yeah, Sita's an S in the Hindu.
So I think we can move on. I mean, overall, it's a great. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
just it's a good book. It's a pinnacle of sci-fi, especially like 70s sci-fi. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
very dope. I've never read the sequels because I've never read anything that's by Clarke and someone else. Just haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
I don't know if I ever will. Maybe someday. I'm not sure.
Right.
But there's quite a few of them. Not to mention, 2 authors wrote a sequel. Or I'm sorry, this is totally different. But
What?
2 authors wrote a sequel to A Meeting with Medusa in 2016.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
interesting.
hoping that one's going to be good, Amy, because
The story. That's a quote unquote
it's
short
famous.
story.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, are you good over there? Or are you just helping me by picking those out?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Although
let's focus because we're going to talk about the movie.
okay.
What's up?
Well, I was going to bring up because it's another, I feel like, kind of correlation because so much of Contact is involves religion. We totally skipped over the Fifth Church of Christ cosmonaut,
Oh, yeah. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
and they believe that Jesus was actually from another.
An alien.
Yeah,
It's just as plausible.
I know.
I mean,
Definitely.
God
I
is
love
an
that.
alien, isn't he?
Technically, right? I mean, even like the name Rama, that just in Hindu means supreme being.
Right.
So like, yeah, an alien, if they're superior to us, it's kind of the same concept.
Yeah, I love that though.
Before we get into this week's movie discussion, we have to hear from our sponsors. So please sit back and enjoy this advertisement.
Scientists have done it again. They've solved one of the solar system's greatest problems: how to keep dressing on your veggies while eating a salad in 0G. Tired of finding yourself covered in a sticky mess while attempting to eat healthy on a long interstellar voyage? Well, worry no more. Intergalactic Foods has finally invented adhesive salad dressing. That's right, it sticks to your food so your food doesn't stick to you. Get it at your local grocery store on all major moons and planets.
For a while, I had known that Amy had never seen the movie Contact.
Yeah.
Had you seen it?
I had
Valerie?
not. No.
Never seen it?
Didn't it come up like in the very beginning of all this, like months ago?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because Contact is based on a Carl Sagan book,
Oh.
which, I mean, he's like a more modern, well, not more modern. He died earlier than Clarke.
Yeah.
Clarke lived a long fucking life.
Aren't they kind of like contemporaries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Carl Sagan is a scientist before a novelist. I feel like Contact's the only novel he ever wrote. So it comes from that same, it's like hard sci-fi.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I have a lot to say about that movie. I don't. It's really long. I don't think obviously it's not perfect. And the biggest problem with it, in my opinion, it's just it just emphasizes the genius of Kubrick. Because she kind of does the same thing at the end that Bowman does. And good
Yes.
golly, is it not very impressive. Especially
know.
right after watching 2001. It's like,
Yeah.
bro, this looks like a video game from 1995.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 2001, and it came out in 1968, still looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
And amazing and never pulls you out.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I'm watching the end of Contact, and I'm like, this looks like a cutscene from a fucking early Doom game.
Totally.
So that kind of pulls you out of that movie.
Speaking of video games, did you know there was a video game, Rendezvous to Rama?
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was a computer game that was for Apple II, and
Was it like a text game? Text adventure?
That's neat.
I don't know. It was made in 1984 by Trillium for
Damn.
Apple II systems and Commodore 64, which
was-
I don't even know what that is.
That's like an early
Yeah.
computer. Wait, so
Yeah. It had very primitive graphics,
Oh my gosh.
highly detailed descriptions, and it followed the book very closely,
Wow.
along with
How did-
having puzzles to solve during the game.
I gotta try to
Oh
find that.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Sounds awesome. I
Oh
did
my
not know
gosh, that's really neat.
that.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
Right. Okay, so like, what did you guys think of Contact?
I felt like it was two different movies, the beginning and the end. And I really, really was into the beginning.
Yeah.
And the end kind of took me like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and when I texted you while I was watching it,
Yeah.
okay, when I texted you this movie's amazing, it was in the beginning when they're like running around,
Yes.
hearing the noise,
Yeah.
come- and they're just like, I'm like, yo, this movie's fucking awesome.
I know.
And then obviously, like, I mean, it's 2.5 hours long. It
Yeah.
fucking slows down.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think something to point out is that it's directed by Robert Zemeckis,
Who's that?
who is, he's like, I feel like he would be Spielberg if Spielberg didn't exist. He directed Forrest Gump.
Oh,
He directed Castaway. He directed all 3 Back to the Future movies.
really?
Oh, wow.
He's the man. He makes
Yeah.
really good movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with, it's funny too that he tried to do the Forrest Gump thing with Bill Clinton.
Oh, right.
That's how they did that. They did it the
Yeah.
same way
Right, you're
that they
totally
stuck
right.
Forrest Gump in all that old
Yes.
footage. They did it
Yes.
with Bill Clinton. It's like
Yeah.
the movie just looks old as a motherfucker
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you see all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
But it's done well. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah, the whole time I wanted to know. I wanted to know what Clinton was actually talking about. Every time they
Right.
use clips,
Yeah.
like I wanted to know. I bet somebody, it's written somewhere. I bet I could look it up and find
Yeah.
out.
Okay, well, actually, and he has a very good eye for visuals. How about that opening shot? That's a very famous opening shot.
Oh, definitely.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how it starts with current music. And as you get further away, the music gets older, demonstrating like that this is how this works. You know what I mean? Like if you're really far away,
Yeah,
you're
you're
only
gonna get-
getting what
Yeah.
we initially started
Yeah.
pumping into the universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also the shot where the girl's running up the stairs when the dad dies, and then it like comes out of the mirror.
Yeah.
Like that shot was super impressive at the time, and it's
Yeah.
still impressive.
Oh,
it's still very
agreed.
cool.
That made me stop and be like, wow.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very cool.
Yes.
And there's like a lot of shots. That movie just has like an epic scope and scale.
Definitely.
Even the shot where she is driving the Jeep because she gets mad about that he cuts the funding. That shot is like in the cab with her, and all the people
Yeah.
like scurry away, and he
Yeah.
stays.
Yeah.
And she stops, and he's just there. You're like,
Yes.
damn, that was a good shot.
That was a good shot.
Definitely.
And obviously, every shot of like the beautiful sky, like in New Mexico or Arizona, wherever those satellite things are. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. It's like a frustrating movie because it's fake, but it deals with real things.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you want to be like if I'm laying in bed with Matthew McConaughey, you know, I'd be like, "Are you intelligent, or were you just written that way?"
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I consider myself a reasonably intelligent guy.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, she's like, are you sure you weren't supposed to? He's like, nah, this was something bigger than me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Whatever you say, dude. And in terms of,
But that's foreshadowing too, because
Right.
she basically says the exact same thing about what she experienced at the end of the movie.
yeah, which is so frustrating. It's like, what are you dumbass aliens trying to do? Like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
what was the point of this?
I was a little
know.
disappointed with the contact with the aliens because it was just like
It's so disappointing.
there was no, and then she gets back and no one believes her.
It's frustrating.
so it's
as
just
all
like,
hell.
what was the point of all of that?
Exactly.
Like getting there was super cool in the sense with like that sphere having to drop and like
Right.
that was cool as shit. But Yeah. I was just like, okay, so you basically saw your dad to just be like, baby steps, and
Oh
send
my
you
God.
back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
you're like, yeah,
And-
dude, I know baby steps. I'm just not getting here.
Right? Yeah. But the thing that, again, it's all fake because it's fiction, but it's like, man, they built the goddamn thing, and a fucking religious person is the one who is the reason it was a total waste and a waste of everyone in the world's money.
Yeah.
So if that were real, then you would be like, okay, people who are obsessed with God and don't think we should go meet aliens, we all decided that this was a good idea, and then you just wasted the money and the time.
Yeah.
So
Right.
who's the asshole now?
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
but it's fake, so there's no
Yeah.
argument to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
man, and like that actor dates the shit out of that movie too. Good God, Gary Busey's kid.
I know,
When
right?
I see that guy in that movie, I'm like,
I
dude,
know.
get out of here. Like, you work in Starship Troopers, but you do not work in this movie. I'm sorry, but no. It's just like, dude, no. And like that whole thing, how he's got the bomb. It's like no one fucking checked the dude before he came in.
Oh, really?
And
Exactly.
and all that. I think that movie it works in a lot of levels, but there are moments in it where I'm like, clearly based on a book. Like,
right.
this is watching, like, this is a Michael Crichton book, like, straight up.
It's funny you say that because, like, the whole beginning, I was like, this is very Jurassic Park-esque.
And
I got that vibe.
especially when she goes and meets the mysterious guy in the plane.
Yes.
It's so cheesy in the movie, but when you think about it, like in a book, like that would be cool.
Right.
You know?
Yes, totally.
But let's like what I love about the movie, and I think we should talk about, is just the whole thing up until they realize like what it is, like what they're being sent. I remember the moment I watched that movie for the first time, and the moment I realized it was amazing, the moment where I like legitimately got goosebumps and I was scared, is when Hitler comes on the screen. You're just like, what?
Right? Like, what the fuck?
Like there couldn't be a worse
Hitler?
image to send to Earth,
Right.
Yeah.
like post the 40s.
Right.
And then, but then it's just so cool because it just changes your perspective, man. It's like they don't know what this is,
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
no idea.
and it's just the first thing we ever sent out
right.
into the world
Isn't
or
that
out into the
wild?
universe
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
this transmission of the Olympics in the
Yeah.
30s.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
And dude, I love, like, obviously movies like that are frustrating because like you're on the side of the scientists and then the government comes in with the guns and all that shit.
Yep. Takes over.
But that scene is so good, dude. When Hitler shows, when she's like, get these men out of here with the guns. This is a civilian operation, blah, blah, blah. And then
Right.
Hitler shows up and James Woods is just like,
yeah.
he's like
Come on in.
waving in the guys with the guns. And you're in that moment, you're kind of like, he might be right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, this shit, like, who fucking knows what's going on?
All right.
So, yeah. And I don't know. Did you like the movie?
I did like the
yeah,
movie.
I liked it.
It was a little long, and I'm just picky about lengths of movies. I feel like you can condense them, and they don't need to be 2.5 hours long. But
Yeah.
you know, I thought the beginning was great. I loved all the parts about it leading up to building the actual device to send her there. And I actually thought it was pretty cool her going there, but you're right, 2001 does it a little bit better. But then I got so let down when she met the actual alien. Yeah.
And
I
even
was hoping it'd be a little bit better than that.
even that she wasn't on a crazy planet.
Yeah,
she
she
was
was-
in a made-up version of Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah, it was just like she was in a simulation the whole
Right.
time. So it was just like, that just kind of
Which
let me down a
obviously
little.
no one in the movie has been to. No one who had anything to do with the movie has actually been to Pensacola, Florida, because
It's not
that's
what it
not
looks
what it
like.
looks like.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure it looks like an alien planet.
I think one of the concepts that was really interesting is that instead of like just like they gave us, you know, like the aliens like sent in the message the technology, you know, like, which might be to be expected. Like there's the idea that like, you know, they'd share their advanced technology with us, but it wasn't just that. It was actually like technology to come see them, which I thought was interesting. Like instead
Yeah.
of like the concept of aliens visiting us, they're actually giving us technology that if we can pull it off and build it, then we can go see them. And I thought that was really a neat concept, as like cheesy as the whole execution of that part of the film, but that concept I thought was really neat. And I don't know if I've experienced that.
Yeah, I don't think I have either.
It's kind of almost like the kind of like Bowman in the Star Child, though. Like he had to be the one that was ready,
right?
And she had to be the one that was ready,
right?
Yeah.
It's one thing I think the movie suffers from is, especially with its length, is there's like 2 separate big things are done twice.
Yes,
like she's doing it in I forget Costa Rica.
Yes,
I can't some Central American either island or country.
Yeah,
and then that falls through. So then she has to go to the desert. Mm-hmm. It's like you were just doing this. Now we're going to do it again.
Yeah.
Right.
And then with the thing at the end, it gets destroyed. It's like we got to go do it again.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I mean, I kind of like the part where they destroy it, and then there's oh my god, we built a second one. You
like that part?
I did like that part.
Because it's like a total cop-out.
It's a total cop-out.
It is a cop-out, but like it also goes into the whole part of like the whole religious debate in that movie that is what would happen. Some fanatic wacko would do something like that. Well,
I just think that it all has to work. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yes.
You either need to make the whole thing about how this is a big deal.
Right.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? And then destroy it, which is also interesting, a big deal. But if you build the whole thing up as being this crazy thing that we could only ever do once, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you can't have the second, you know what I mean?
Right.
If you wanted to go to space, you need a second one.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you want the whole debate to be impactful,
Right. You need to.
So maybe it would
not
have been
know about
better
it.
if he attempted to destroy it, but didn't.
Yes.
Maybe they caught him in time.
Yeah, because I was actually surprised when the entire thing
blew up.
blew
Me too.
up.
I was
Like
what
I
the
thought
fuck?
maybe just a little pod would blow up and they'd have to try, he's okay, good
Just,
way
like,
to get
rebuild part of it.
Right, but good way to get him out of the picture.
right.
They just have to rebuild that part. She's second in line, so she gets to go.
Right.
But no, the entire thing gets destroyed and surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
There's another one.
And wait, so maybe, I guess the one debate thing that we could talk about, which is interesting, is the whole argument that if we have one human being sent to represent all of mankind, and according to this movie's calculations, 95% of the world believes in God, shouldn't we send someone who believes in God? Like, I kind of get the line of argument there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you only know about this thing because of the scientists.
Right.
Like, there's no church listening for, like, God or aliens.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
and I just think that the scientific community of the whole planet would find a way to not let that shit penetrate what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially, it's like, I don't understand. It's like, look on just planet Earth, how many different types of religions there are.
Right.
Who's to say an alien race is going to believe the same thing we do? And also, which religion do you represent?
Right, that's
you
a
can't
good point.
represent all of them. Some are polytheistic, some are monotheistic. Like, you can't really do that. So
Right.
it kind of was a little, I don't know, weird
And the guy,
that that was criteria.
Yeah.
how
on
he's
sending
how
it.
he's like, are we really just supposed to pretend that 95% of the human race is suffering from a mass delusion? It's like, yeah, I do believe that.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, an understand, like, I get why it's happening, but
Yeah.
like, this is like real. This is
Right.
this is a thing that they sent us.
Yeah.
Like, God only ever talks to you in your head. You know?
And also, that 95%, a bunch of them are lying because in this world that we live in, atheism is vilified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we can, look at her, how she wouldn't even in the deposition, wouldn't even say, I do not believe in God. Like she
Right.
couldn't do it.
Yeah, she knew that would be the thing that
Right.
terminated her from the job.
Right. And so it's just like wild. Like, you can ask people, like, what do you, and, like, do you believe in God? What do you believe in? And like a lot of people will take like the safe way out,
Yeah.
which is to say like, well, I don't believe in God, but I do believe in a spiritual entity, but
In a higher power.
Right. And it's like,
Nature.
right. So like, that's what it is like, you got to get your shit sorted.
Right.
Like I'm kind of adamant about this concept because that's who I used to be for so long. I was like, well, because I didn't want to like rustle any feathers. I didn't want to like take a stand because God forbid I was wrong. No pun intended. But like now I'm just like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hard to say that sometimes.
I think it's perfectly okay to say you don't know too, though.
No, I'm saying it is perfectly okay, but I think there are a lot of people who, if they did actually, if you took away the stigma of saying that you are an atheist, I think a lot more people would raise their hand.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, it's like I brought up that fact, which again, I don't know if this is true, but I read a statistic that the amount of people who say they believe in God in the United States would not physically fit in all the church space that exists in this country.
Right.
So somebody's lying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, they just believe in God, but they don't go to church.
Right.
And if that's the case, then no, you people who are wishy-washy should not be representing all of us when we go meet aliens.
Right. Yeah. But it's funny because even though I am someone who does not believe in God, if I were sent to meet an alien race, I wouldn't say that my way is the right way. I would acknowledge everybody.
Right.
That's
I would
the whole point
tell
of
them
being
about
a scientist too, though, is that you leave everything open to interpretation. You know what I mean? Like everything is like you have an open mind, basically.
Unproven until proven.
Yeah, until
whatever.
You do have
You
facts
have the
and
facts.
proof, and
Yeah. But at the same time, you can be both. You can be a scientist and be religious.
Yeah, you can be.
So
there's lots of people who are.
yeah.
I love the beginning. I think obviously, I think I considered while I was watching it to like break it up into 2 sittings because it's not even like the movie is 2 hours and 23 minutes, and I say it's 2.5 hours. Like it's exactly 2.5 hours. You're sitting there for 150 minutes. I considered breaking it up, but I stuck through it. But I think one of the benefits of making it that long is if you have an attention span good enough, like things are just. I think that it allows you to give enough attention to all the different things that are happening.
Yeah.
Like for instance, like all the scenes with her as a little girl are really good and really interesting and really well written.
Yeah.
And even that dad, the actor, he like everything he says, like his performance is really good. And like I just think that movie has like in some parts has really good writing. Especially when she's like, can we talk to Europe?
Right.
Can we talk to Africa?
Right.
Can we talk to China? And he's given all these like normal answers you would give a kid that you don't want to lie to, who's like a scientific minded kid.
Yeah.
And she's like, can we talk to mom?
Yeah.
Like with that 5 words.
Yeah.
Like you're told so much.
Definitely.
That the mom's dead. That like kids ask questions like that who fucking knows what you're supposed to say to them, and that the dad is not like fuck religion, fuck God.
Right.
He's like he gives a very neutral answer.
Right.
Which is I really like how he's like I don't think there's a radio because whether you believe in God or not, that's true. There's no radio strong enough to reach that far.
Right. Yeah.
Like I just think that's really good.
Good point.
Yeah, and then I also think I love how on the nose it is that there's a blind guy who listens to the stars, but it fucking works so well.
It does.
Like that actor, he like always pops up. He's like almost always like a jerk, but he's great.
He
He's
is really
movie.
Good. Yeah.
And of course, like Jodie Foster is amazing.
Oh,
Don't you
she's
think
totally
so?
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, she's always
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, Jodie Foster's always great.
And just the whole scene with her and the 2 guys trying to get all the equipment
It's
straight.
so good.
It has so much energy,
Oh, it's
dude.
so good.
And like how she's just racing through the desert in that car. And then I love how she's
They're
on
on
the
the
radio.
radios.
Like she's on the
Yes.
radio right outside the building. And you see her go from on the radio, because I can't yell to you.
You're right.
It's all one shot. She runs in that place. And then you see her just like, okay, I'm done with the radio now because I'm in the same room as you.
Yeah, don't do
It's
that.
so good, dude.
Oh, I loved all of that. It was really awesome.
And I just think, like, if you have a big enough budget and you're competent enough the way Zemeckis is, you can just pull shit off like that.
yeah.
And it's cool.
for sure.
Honestly, man, I think that this movie is an example of what I talked about when it comes to that story, Death and the Senator, of subtle science fiction. Because that scene of them running around, they don't have to be doing scientific things while
Right.
doing that. They're just they're like taking advantage of a situation, and they have to be competent in their work in order to do it.
Yeah.
Like that could be anything.
Yes.
But it's like exciting.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. That was something that like really stuck out to me. I was just like, you know, like how you make something like that visually exciting. And
Yeah.
and they did such an amazing job.
Especially because I think that whole dynamic of those characters is such like a 90s movie thing.
Definitely.
But this is not like it transcends. It goes above that, I think. 'Cause
Right.
it's like that, but done perfectly well.
Yes.
You know, like, wait, I was going to say one more thing. Oh, I love how complex some of the characters are, too. Like, you really go back and forth with her rival, that older gentleman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I love it's like such her against him.
Yes.
And then when they actually find something, and that James Woods guy, he's like, "Why did you tell Australia?" And then the guy who she hates has to step in and be like, "Look, bro, like you don't understand
Yeah.
how satellites work.
Right.
Like, you just don't get this. Like this is how we have to do it."
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So again, with the length, that allows those complex characters.
Sure.
And all that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the other parts that I really enjoyed was the festival. When they drive through
Oh,
the
yeah.
festival.
Yeah.
That part
Because
was
it was
great.
so true. Like, if this happened, that is exactly what would happen.
Yeah, it
What,
was like
people
when
would
people
just
got
flock
all
there?
amped up about Area
Yes.
51 not long ago.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
raiding Area 51.
and like all the different things that, like, you know, I mean, people would just jump all over that.
Right.
And like how they had like performance art at a car club, and then, you know, the religious people, and then
and
like
the alt-right people. Or not alt-right, what are the
yeah, and then
Nazis.
right, oh yeah, and then
Yeah.
there were Native Americans, and
Yeah.
like just like how all these different subcategories of humans how we would all experience it, the knowledge of alien life,
Yeah.
how we would experience that differently, and what it would mean to different people.
And even like they point out like with the media shots about like that a lot of people are scared because
Right.
like that would be very realistic as
Right.
well too. That
Yeah, so it
some
was
people
like-
would be really excited, some people would be horrified.
Yeah, it was just like a way, like I just loved that it was just a really simple way to like acknowledge that concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like totally on point. Like it was legit.
Yeah, I think the first time I ever encountered that idea that people wouldn't just be afraid of aliens is in a movie that I actually don't like, but Independence Day.
Right.
Oh, right.
Bef-
yeah.
Before they ever blow up a building with that like blue death ray, there's a scene where there's people on top of one of the buildings that they do that to, and they're holding signs that say like "Take me with you."
Yeah.
Oh,
I remember being like a kid and being like, huh? Like there are people in the world who would do that?
do that?
Who would like
No.
want to get abducted by aliens, and now I'm one of those people. I would be up there with the sign. You know what I mean? And back then I was like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's so funny.
So
Well,
yeah.
when I was a little kid, the movie E.T. scared the shit out of me.
Really?
Like the idea of aliens scared the shit out of me when I was a little kid. Now I'm like, it's so cool. I would
Yeah.
totally want to meet one. Yeah,
Right.
but as a child, yeah. E.T. There's another movie with aliens in it too that really weirded me out. And then the X-Files came out.
I was 100% jealous of those little kids. I would have given anything to find an alien in my backyard, especially such a cute one.
He was kind of cute.
I've never seen E.T.
What?
Oh, it's a good movie.
It
yeah.
looks not fun to me.
It's actually really good.
Yeah, it's Steven Spielberg. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
Wait, there was something else. Oh, just in terms of like movie making. Even though I've seen the movie before, I just love like her struggle as this scientist who's trying to do this thing that no one thinks is like. I absolutely love her delivery when they're like, he's working on this, he's working on this. Like, what are you working on? It's just like
Yeah.
little green men.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're like, that just tells you everything.
Yes.
Like, it tells
totally.
you everything about their attitude, about her attitude, about the attitude of the world.
Right.
Right.
And it's almost like she's to the point where she's like, I don't even want to explain this to you in a scientific way. Because,
Right.
like, by the time I'm done, you're going to realize, you're going to go, you mean little green men?
Yeah.
She's like done trying to explain it. She's just
Yeah.
like, little green men. So good, dude. But yeah, I guess that's it. It's a long movie, but I guess, I don't know. It's very thought provoking.
Oh, definitely. I'm very glad that I had the opportunity to watch it.
It's just, I feel weird that I feel like I don't really have that much else to say. We talked about an 83-minute movie about gremlins for like an hour.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
It is too bad though about like CGI, man. Even like
I
the shot, like
know.
it's pretty tasteful how they do the thing itself because it's always filmed from a distance.
Oh,
The
right.
giant structure,
Right,
But
yeah.
even those shots, man, you look at it and you're like, that thing is not in the same frame as everything else.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. It's done pretty well, but you're kind of just like, that looks like a computer made that.
When was that movie
Yeah.
made again?
Came out in 97.
Oh, really? 97?
Yeah.
At a time when to have really good CGI, you had to have a massive budget.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm sure that movie had a big budget, but
Oh, yeah.
They
I
also
don't
were
know.
paying a lot of really good, well-known actors, too, in that
yeah,
movie.
I
I
love
kept
it.
being like, oh, there's so-and-so. Oh, there's so-and-so.
What about dude like Rob Lowe? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like he
little
must have
cameo.
had other scenes that they cut out.
Maybe.
You know, because like, why would you hire Rob Lowe? But then
Yes.
again, he was in The West Wing, which was out at the time, I think,
Really?
and he was playing like a presidential guy.
That started way back then?
I think. I don't know.
West
Maybe I'm
Wing?
wrong. I could be wrong.
I feel like that was more modern.
I'm not a West Wing watcher, so I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe that's
Now I
how they got him for West Wing. They were like, "We
Maybe.
saw you in Contact,
Yeah,
bro.
you played a
You
diplomat
killed it."
really well.
Like you wear a lanyard with your picture on it so well."
Yep, nope, 99.
Okay, yeah. So they definitely got him.
Yeah,
from that.
I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Maybe is and I do love the scene because the whole time you're watching it, man, I hate this in movies. I've said it before. When like you sympathize with the character, it's like everything about the movie is telling you that one character's right and everyone else in the movie is like, no, you're wrong. I hate that, dude. It's like she discovered it. Like, what's up with all this bullshit of other people getting involved? Like,
Oh, I
just
know.
so then I love
Yeah.
when that woman comes to her rescue
Yes.
in that room.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's like, listen.
Yep.
Besides the president, I'm in charge here, okay?
Yeah.
She's still on the team. Like,
Yeah.
I do like that. I like
Yeah.
that scene. So anyway, another thing, I watched Ad Astra on Monday.
Oh, really?
I love that movie.
Yeah.
It is so good.
Yeah.
It's a little boring at the end, but man,
Yeah.
it has some of the most beautiful cinematography in a space movie I have ever seen. There's so many shots in that movie that I want to frame. There's this one scene. I think you guys only watched it once with me because I
Yeah.
brought it over. I was
Yeah.
like, I got this shit on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they're driving on the moon,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, one of the characters just like, hey, they're like, look. He's like, the little blue marble never gets old. And they show like the car moving, and it's just the Earth, like right there above them, and it's like, damn, dude, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like totally, that's totally an Arthur C. Clarke world.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, where like all of that's just normal,
Right.
you know?
And I was reading about it, and the director said that the point of making that movie was to make the most realistic depiction of spaceflight ever put in a movie.
Oh.
And I agree on many points. Again, it's like what I said about 2001. I watch it, try to catch them where they fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
I watch this one again. I'm just wait, I'm just looking for how, or just any way that they they skipped something over and
Yeah.
like didn't acknowledge. Like there is, when they're on the moon in that movie,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're inside, but they're acting like it's Earth gravity. So that's a little. There's never a line like, "Oh, we invented this thing that like
right.
makes it so it's Earth gravity." In here.
Right.
It's like, and then when they're on Mars again, like they're underground, but they're just walking around like it's Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, realistic in what way, sir? But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just, and dude, like the message of that movie is so crazy, man. It's like the whole message of the movie is he goes all the way to Neptune to find out that he shouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
It's so just not like a normal sci-fi movie. I love it. And it's just such a, it's like, it's the ultimate, it's like to the most extreme of absentee father. Like,
Right.
it is the most
Right.
extremely
Yes, version,
absent you could
yes.
possibly be. You're on fucking Neptune. And it's just, like, that story has been told so many times, but never on
Never
Neptune.
like
Not
that.
like that, yeah.
It's so cool.
That's wild.
Yeah. But anyway, so the next episode will be, I'm not even going to say what it'll be because I don't know.
You don't know.
No.
What's the next novel?
The next novel after Rendezvous with Rama is going to be Imperial Earth,
Interesting.
which is cool to watch this evolution of Clarke's, like, solar system.
Yeah.
Because remember in this one, it's cool that they talk about which worlds are inhabited.
Right.
And he mentions that it's all the way out to, I think, even Neptune.
Yeah.
But then Jupiter.
Yeah, there's a moon, one of Neptune's moons.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Uranus is, like, not even touched, I remember they
Right.
mentioned. And
Yeah.
the Jupiter, one of them he mentions is Titan.
Mm-hmm.
And the main character of Imperial Earth, that's where he lives.
Oh, okay.
So it's just cool how it's expanding.
Yes.
So yeah, Imperial Earth, then Fountains of Paradise.
Nice.
Which I should have saved Ad Astra for Fountains of Paradise, because if you remember the opening scene of Ad Astra, he's on, they call it a space antenna. In the movie, they go, "It's something, you're on the space antenna."
Yeah.
And in the book, it's a space elevator.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So that's completely what Fountains of Paradise is about. It's
Right.
about building a space elevator.
Nice.
And it's similar to the assassination story we recently read, because the whole point of that book is that the best place to build it is on this, like, holy site. So they have to, like,
there's a lot of
political
diplomacy
it's really good. It's
interesting.
It's a good one. So anyway, that's it. I'll do all the closing stuff and the closing thoughts. Go read Rendezvous with Rama if you haven't. I may have said some disparaging things about it, but it's a great novel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's worth a read for sure.
Yeah. And thank you for joining us. All right, that wraps up our discussion this week about Rendezvous with Rama and the film Contact. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We do have some bonus content coming at you after my little spiel here. I hope you enjoyed that. But first, I got to thank some people. I want to thank my gracious co-hosts, Amy and Mallory, for joining me and listening to my mad ravings about Contact and dated CGI from the 1990s. I have to give a huge shout-out to Kevin Lesage for going above and beyond every single episode in creating all the music that you hear in both this one and all episodes. Thank you to my sister Heather for performing my ads. And last but not least, big thank you to Cielo Palomino for reading all the passages that you heard from the novel Rendezvous with Rama in this episode. Please leave a 5-star review if you can on iTunes. Give the highest rating equivalent on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. And please, please, please join me next time. But also, like I said, I have some bonus content. We are going to hear about approximately a 45-minute discussion. Feel free to skip it if you're not interested. But it's just a discussion between my passage reader today, my voiceover artist Cielo, and I. Cielo is from Peru. She's a really, really good friend of mine. She came here to the U.S. to visit for about a month, and in that time, what do you think we did? We hung out, but we also watched quite a few science fiction films. So we basically just talked on the mic after we did the VOs about the sci-fi that we watched. And it's just bonus content. If you feel like sticking around and listening to it, you can. Might be kind of interesting. Also, I want to do a real quick shout-out to myself and the people that I'm working with. So I started a company. It's called Su Madre Podcasts, where basically it's a podcast editing service. All things podcasts. If you want to, if you need help editing or help creating your podcast, or you need logo creation or music or anything like that, hit me up. Go to www.sumadrepodcasts.com. That's podcasts with an S at the end. And I'm working with, as always, Restaurant Unstoppable. So check out the Restaurant Unstoppable podcast. I'm also working with the National Restaurant Owners podcast and the Is This For Real podcast. So search those. They're really good podcasts. I'm happy to be working with them. And I guess that's it. I got actually one more ad for you, so you can stick around for that. And then a little discussion about sci-fi movies. So thank you so much for joining me. Please join me next time. We're getting towards the end of this podcast. We're beyond halfway through. I'm thinking maybe 10 to 12 more episodes, and then we'll be done with Arthur C. Clarke, my man. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and peace out.
People of Mars, do you have unruly children? Kids who won't listen to their mother, their father, or even their automated maid? Well, the greatest educational vessel in the galaxy, the Mentor, is taking on young passengers at Port Lowell on Mars. We will transform your juvenile delinquents into proper young people, fit for civilized life anywhere in the solar system, after a 3-month voyage to Titan and back. Guaranteed. Be prepared to sign a waiver giving us permission to long-term hibernate exceptionally naughty children.
Let's do a little sci-fi movie roundup.
Okay.
You interested?
Sure.
Doesn't sound very convincing.
I'm put on the spot, so that's why I don't sound convincing.
Okay. So, Cielo is visiting from Peru here in the U.S. with me, and we've been watching a lot of movies. A lot of them have been science fiction because I love sci-fi, and I guess I've been showing her movies. What was the first one we watched? Can you think of it?
The first movie of all the ones that we watch here, I think it was a sci-fi one. No, it wasn't even sci-fi. Wasn't it Blazing Saddles?
Oh, yeah. Okay. We watched Blazing Saddles, but then what else? Was it Source Code?
Source Code?
Was it
I think
the
was
first one?
the first sci-fi one, yes.
You sure?
I think so.
All right. What'd you think of Source Code?
Source Code, I didn't know anything about this movie prior to watching it. I thought that it was about time travel, but it was more than that, right? Because
Source Code is not time travel. Rather, it is time reassignment.
yeah, exactly, right? So then I guess one of the things that I least expected was how he was in a coma and how he just existed, like him doing this mission just existed in his brain, like
Right.
they were connecting with that part of his brain that was still active and alive.
See.
And like I found it interesting how they played with this psychological thing about like soldiers and how they do this for their country. So even when this person is dead, technically his body is dead, how they can grasp into that part of like his soldier psychology and how he's like still, even dead, he still has this one last mission to save the country, and do something for the country, and like how they grasp into that to get him to do this mission, all over and over again, and try to make it right with each time. So yeah, I found that interesting. And also one of the most surprising parts, I guess, was when we found out that he was not even, like, his body wasn't even complete. He had just I think what it took, the part of his body necessary to be able to use him in a way.
Yeah, basically just enough to keep his brain alive.
Yes.
He had like half of his arms, and it's basically like from the lungs up.
His torso, right?
Yeah, like his rib cage and up was intact.
Yeah. So then, after watching the movie, I didn't think of this, but we commented on how each time that he is brought up to that time period where Jake Gyllenhaal's character has to do this mission, it creates alternate dimensions, you know.
Every time they initialize source code, it basically creates a whole new universe with all these people who are like sentient and in this whole new world that the creator of the source code doesn't even realize is happening, which is super fascinating.
Yeah, in the end, he doesn't even realize, I think, that source code was successful, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So successful that even the creator doesn't know it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's easily one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. What else? We also watched, it's not really sci-fi, but The Sixth Sense.
Yeah,
What'd you think?
Also, I think we watched a lot of movies with a twist in the end because I have
I know.
mentioned
That became the theme.
Yeah, I have mentioned that I like movies with a twist and like that have a psychological component to them. So when we watched that, I didn't realize like now I know that if you recommend a movie, they might have a twist. But when we watched it,
I was doing that intentionally. I don't normally recommend movies with twists.
Yeah, I think because I commented that, but I just thought that it was a suspense horror movie, but then the twist happened, right? And then we are informed that Bruce Willis' character has been dead all this time, right? So all the movie was about this that were majority of the movie was about this dead person, not even knowing that he's dead, and still going on this mission to try to compensate not treating this patient that killed him,
right,
with this other patient that has a very similar story.
And what's so interesting about it is that when the kid's laying in the bed, and he finally tells Bruce Willis his secret, he's describing Bruce Willis's character.
Yeah, and he doesn't even believe him at that moment, right?
Right, and it's just funny that the kid he goes, they don't know that they're dead, which is exactly Bruce Willis, and he basically finds out that that these ghosts basically they have like unfinished business.
Yes.
On Earth. That's why they're hanging around. And that's what Bruce Willis is. That's why he's there.
Yeah.
That's his unfinished business, is helping another kid who has the sixth sense because he couldn't help him when he was alive.
Yes. So I think when I found, like when we were informed that he was there all this time, I thought maybe. I don't think that. I think that there was some kind of interaction with someone other than the kid. I thought that there was an interaction with the mom of the kid, but like really thinking about it, I think there wasn't, right? There wasn't an interaction.
Never.
So they made a good job, not like for us to even like not notice that. And then I was thinking the first time that Bruce Willis' character approaches the kid, the kid gets scared, no? Like very scared. So I guess it's because this person was dead and he was already traumatized by it.
I don't know if the kid knows that he's dead.
You think?
I'm not sure, really, but I mean, it's with most of them, it's obvious. But with Bruce Willis, I mean, the whole point is that he was shot in the stomach, so you can't see his injury.
Yeah, but remember that the kid said that every time there's a dead person around him, it gets very chilly.
I think that's only when they're angry.
Oh, really?
But at the same time, maybe he says that they see what they want to see, right?
Yes.
So Bruce Willis probably isn't seeing the blood on him, because remember at the end he realizes there's blood in his back. So maybe the kid can see the blood all along.
And like,
I don't know.
I wonder, why is he like? Does he get super scared with others and not with him?
Because they're scary, and Bruce Willis is not scary. Like the woman with the cuts in her wrists, and she's clearly very angry. And dude, I hate to say this, man, but that scene, that woman looks like a female version of Gary Sinise, who is another actor. So when I saw that this time watching it, I was like, that lady looks like Gary Sinise wearing a wig. And it was very distracting.
But yeah, why would you call it sci-fi? Because
It's not really sci-fi. I mean,
maybe no.
I don't know. What are ghosts? Is that science fiction or is that supernatural? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not really a horror movie.
Yeah, I guess it's suspense.
So what did you think
psychological.
of Fight Club?
I guess we were talking maybe Fight Club has sci-fi component, right?
Again, so it's psychological.
It's psychological thriller, I think. No, wait. Psychological thriller is The Sixth Sense. But this one, I really liked it. I thought it was a very intense movie. It had like everything, I think, in a movie to make it powerful. Obviously, Fight Club is like a classic, but I have never watched it, and I wanted to think we're trying to watch classics that I haven't. So that was a good one. And again, I didn't know about twist. I thought that this movie was about like a few guys that like to fight for the fun of it. I didn't know much about it. It didn't even intrigue me so much, but I wanted to watch it just to watch it because like, I'm in the audiovisual field, so it's like I think a thing not to watch.
It's a classic,
this movie, right? So, I like the psychological part also, and yeah, it was shocking when we found out that Brad Pitt's character and Gordon
Tyler Durden.
Yeah, Tyler Durden.
Oh, and Edward Norton.
And Edward Norton character were the same person.
Yeah. It's a good movie, for sure.
Yeah. And still, like, it gets you thinking, really? But, like, how did they evidence, like, were there any clues that they were the same person throughout the movie? So you get to thinking, right? That the girl's Elena Bonham Carter's character is never in the same room with Tyler Durden and Gordon's character, right?
Edward Norton.
No, Edward Norton, sorry. They were never in the same room, all three of them.
Yeah, all these any movie with a twist ending requires a second viewing.
Yeah,
so
right.
that you can watch it knowing what's actually going on. Because the whole point of a twist ending of a movie is to trick you, to make you think one thing while watching it, to trick you through filmmaking. And probably, so like the last movie we'll talk about, which we watched last night.
Oh, yes.
For me, watching that, I mean, I'm just sitting there going, well, it's funny because it gives you a certain, like some movies, especially period pieces that take place a long time ago, you watch them and you're like, this just looks like people wearing costumes saying lines, right? So in this particular case, watching that movie, I was like, these people don't look at all like they're in the 1800s. Everyone's too clean. Like, it just doesn't look like the 1800s. And then, obviously, come to find out, it's not the 1800s. So,
oh, yes.
It gives you an excuse to say, this just looks like people wearing costumes. Because it is just people wearing costumes. You know what I mean? Like, they think that what they're wearing is from a certain time, from a different time period than what is reality. But, that doesn't, in my opinion, I don't think The Village, we're talking about The Village.
Yeah.
I don't really think that, I don't really like that movie. I gave it a chance this time. Like, I think and this is just what I do. I like to talk about movies. Like, if The Village didn't have its merits, I wouldn't want to talk about it. Like, if it was just a bad movie, I would just be like, whatever, that's just a bad movie. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I just think it just doesn't do it for me, and I think visually, like I said, I think the cinematography is like, it's not bad, but like the color in that movie there's like no color in the movie except when they wear like that dull yellow. And of course, anytime you see red, clearly the red pops out. But the whole movie is like white and beige and brown. And occasionally the blind girl wears blue.
Yeah.
And I just think the whole movie is just too complicated. There's too many things going on. I think it would be more effective if she wasn't blind, even though that's kind of how it all works out at the end, and that she's able to leave and come back without knowing that she went into the modern world. Because it's such a unique situation that you don't need these characters to be either blind or like Adrian Brody's character, who is developmentally disabled. I just think that, like, people get jealous of their of love and kill each other for love in movies. You don't need him to be mentally compromised. I don't see the purpose of that.
Yeah.
And casting such a well-known actor in that role, I'm just like, that's just Adrian Brody, like, smiling and giggling until for some reason he stops giggling. I guess because his girl got taken from him. But anyway, what did you think of The Village?
So I don't remember if you said this, but I thought you liked it the first time you watched it.
So my problem with The Village was that, so basically M. Night Shyamalan became this director who you just expect the twist ending, so it just worked against him. So I remember this specifically. My cousin went and saw The Village before me, and I just basically begged her. I was like, is it good? Like, what's it all about? Like, what's going on? Like, what are the monsters? Like, are they Sasquatch? Blah, blah, blah. And she was like, do you really want me to tell you? And I was like, yeah. And so she told me the ending. So I never watched that movie without knowing the ending. But
Okay.
I just, like,
Do you think you would have guessed it?
no, absolutely not. But the thing is, that movie just sets up, like, the without it being in the modern world, it's already intriguing. Like, even if those people were like lying, like even if it was a cult in the 1800s and there were mythical creatures, like, give me the mythical creatures. Don't give me people in suits. I don't want to see that. And even so, dude, like, there's like literally one scene in the whole movie where the beings we don't speak of enter the village and scare people. You get that one time. And then probably this viewing, the most effective scene for me watching it this time was when she confronts the one, and you as the audience, like, I was able to put myself in a situation in my head where I was thinking, ooh, like, kind of like seeing it for the first time. Obviously, I knew that was Adrian Brody in that suit. I put myself in the audience, in the mind of the audience, because he leaves it open. He says, we base those creatures off of old books that mention them. So it's like they could be real.
Yeah.
But so and what is so effective about that scene, in my opinion, is that it's in broad daylight. Remember when she like turns around and he's just standing there?
Yeah.
But even then, like, why would Adrian Brody just stand there? Like, how did he go from being totally crazy to being an extremely effective movie monster? You know?
Maybe.
Doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, the whole point is to trick you. I mean, that's the whole point. You can't have him laughing in there because then the audience would know that was a human and not a monster.
Okay, you mean about that?
Yeah.
I guess.
I just think the whole movie, and even, remember I even said, when you finally find out it's the modern world, even the scene with the guy getting the medicine for her, like, even that has to be complicated. Like, he is sneaking the medicine. I do not care about this character that I just met and how he has a soft spot for this girl and he wants to lie to his superior and steal the medicine. You've piled all this shit onto us as the audience, and now all of a sudden I have to sit there in suspense while he sneaks the medicine? Who cares, dude?
You think? I think it's I think for me that meant that the girl had all this idea of how modern society works.
She has
Wait,
no
they don't
idea
know.
about modern
Okay,
society.
but I think they
The
had
towns. She thinks that she's in, quote, the towns.
Okay, the towns, but I think that she had some kind of information about the towns, right? The father, before letting her go into the towns, he tells her that I think people are not like are not to be trusted, and you
Mhm.
know. So I think that scene for me meant that she's realizing that like these people in the towns are not devils, that there are good people also, like
Yeah.
this guy, because she also says it.
But
right?
yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying there, but the scene that I'm specifically referencing, she's not present for that.
I know, but
She doesn't.
It's like,
She doesn't know that he stole that medicine.
Yeah,
so, like,
but
why do we need to know that as the audience?
I guess, but that maybe just complements how she says, "I hear in your voice you are
A kind person.
So
Right.
like, okay, it doesn't end with that, but we also know that the guy is risking his job, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
to help her. And then overall, I was very well before watching this movie. We saw the trailer, and I was super intrigued about it. I didn't know what were the creatures. I didn't know if they were mythological or like I didn't know anything. So when we watched it, there were some things that didn't end up connecting with me, such as like how this girl Ivy, I think her name was, right, the blind girl. How can she run like that if she's blind? Like, there were some things that were like minor details, but for me were important, because if the details are not right, then it's like I'm going to be focusing on that a lot throughout the movie, throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And it loses the impact of the movie for me. So, like, I didn't even notice that she was blind, because one of the first scenes, she was running around, like, super fast. Like, how can a blind person run like that? But I do think that the reason that, well, for me, why being blind is important, because you said that it didn't make sense to you. Apart from the fact that she was the only one allowed to go to the towns, and it was very convenient for her to be blind, so that she doesn't have any kind of visual information about the society, how it works. Apart from that, I think it's this element of the damsel in distress, and how it's even more of it's even worse for her because she's blind. Like, she's also, as other women in the village are trying to like get married and settle and like continue to grow the village, she is like, she's trying so hard to get to be together, or to get married with Joaquin Phoenix, and like how she's longing for that, being rescued, and like, that need to be seen by him, and like
It is
want to
pretty-
be protected by him. And even more so, she's blind, and like she,
Well, dude, what's cool about that movie is that it turns it on its head, and that she's the protector. She's the one who goes on a mission and saves the man in distress.
yeah, in the end, I think
he's the one who's dying. She's the hero who goes out and gets the medicine.
I think,
It's usually the opposite.
yeah, for the first part, I think it was effective that she was blind because of this, and then after he gets hurt, then she becomes the hero, and the
Dude,
one
think
that
about, okay,
saves
just
him.
real quick. Think about how much more effective it would be if she realize she was in the modern world. Like, because we as the audience don't know that there is a modern world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we would be right there with her, like, holy shit, there are cars, there are roads. Like, this is, I've been lied to my whole life. Like, why? I just don't, I also think it just would have been so much more interesting to see a character who was lied to her entire life to realize that, oh, the modern world exists and that this whole village that we live in is a lie. But to realize that that her father's intentions, right, to live this like pure life with like no crime and no greed and no hatred and no money, for her to go there and for her to realize that I know that what we're living in this fake world, but I realize the value in it. She doesn't even know. She doesn't know that. So it's not effective. Like, it would be better if she realized, and then like it would basically be handed down to her, because William Hurt says that in the movie. He's like, what, are you going to live forever as the person who knows that the modern world exists? There's no answer for that. The answer for that is to fucking tell one of the younger people that, hey, listen, this is a sham, but it's a better way of life, so we need to continue it.
Yeah, I guess.
I think that would be so much more effective. I also think that it would be more effective if she and the two guys who leave, you know, if that whole thing was uninterrupted. Instead, the movie continuously cuts back to what's going on in the village. It's like, give us this isolated journey of her trek through the woods. It's like, we have to spend this entire movie in this fake village, right? Like, we just see these buildings in this village, and then finally someone goes into the woods. Oh my God, how cool is that? But instead, we have to keep cutting back to William Hurt and the elders, like, arguing.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, even, like, when she finally sees the car, it's preceded by him doing a voiceover explaining that it's all fake and that a modern world exists. It's like, dude, the car reveal would have been so much more effective if you didn't cut back.
Yeah, I think overall I like the plot a lot, but maybe there were ways. Maybe the execution wasn't.
I agree, dude. I think the premise of the
Well,
movie is awesome.
I really liked it. Yeah, I really like it, but maybe the execution could have been better to give us more suspense, to give us something to work with, you know, not just have it in our face. Like, okay, so we were watching this movie, and Jared makes comments throughout the movie. So he made comments like, "Oh my God, this movie's ugly visually."
It is.
You know, I think I truly think like not every movie has to be like has to have beautiful shots like in terms of color. Like, I think the washed out colors have an effect and a meaning and a purpose. I think for this movie I get that, but then so I didn't have a problem with that. But then one thing that I think could have been better, and that was one of your comments throughout the movie, was how they made these scenes very like convoluted when they didn't need to, and like how like I want as a watcher, as a
Viewer.
I want my brain to work, you know. I want to like critically analyze what's going on. But if they just said it to you very explicitly, then it's like too easy, right? Like when Adrian Brody finds the costume and then one of the elders say, "Oh no." Remember how you made a comment of
Oh, dude, that part was so dumb,
one
dude.
of the elders said, "Oh no, he found the costume."
Yeah. They're like, oh, he found the one that we hid under the floorboards. It's like, dude, really?
Yeah.
Like, you don't even need that. Say that he broke into the shed and got it from there. Like, why are you adding this whole other element of not believability?
Yeah, and not even, like, they could have even omitted that Adrian Brody did it. They could have just said...
You don't even have to say where he got the suit. Like, you told us the suit is in the shed. Like, he went and got it out of the shed.
Or not even words. Just like the shot, right?
Yeah.
Of they, like, coming into the house and seeing how they broken into, like, and who did it? We don't know.
And like, dude, you think, okay, what, like, so now I'm even thinking about that. I'd kind of checked out at that point. So Adrian Brody's character is stuck in that little house. He finds a suit under the floorboards, and he realizes that these monsters are not real. And instead of going around the town and telling people, he just goes into the woods and, like, what, looks for Bryce Dallas Howard? Like, what?
Yeah, you think that makes sense with how he's mentally in pitch,
I mean,
how you say?
he was always so, like, hyper and laughing and stuff. You would think that he seems like he would want to tell someone. He wouldn't just go into the woods.
Yeah, I feel like it would have made more sense if he put in the costume and started scaring people in the village.
Dude, it would have made more sense if he wasn't developmentally disabled and if he was trying to get back at her intentionally for dumping him and going for Joaquin Phoenix's character. Like, I get, like, the core of the movie is good, but then it's just all this other crap is layered on top of it to make it, like, overly complicated. And I want to say, dude, that I do not hate the movie. I like movies that challenge me, that make me want to have these kinds of discussions and point out what I do like and what I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I think William Hurt's character. I think William Hurt puts in the best performance in the movie. You know, the main elder Walker.
Yeah.
He's amazing, dude. When he gives that that speech at the end about, like, why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just there with those other elders. Like, that scene was amazing. He's really good. And also, wait, I think the scene where Joaquin Phoenix confesses his love,
Mm-hmm.
the way he does it, like that dialogue, that writing, I think is amazing.
Yeah, I think that was one of the maybe one of the dialogues that felt more real in terms of love, because there were others that were kind of cheesy, and even like the dialogues that were cheesy were coming from the getters. So, but his dialogue was, I think, more real, like more. You could identify with that in the real world, no? But yeah, there were some cheesy parts in that movie too.
Dude, it's even, you could even have it be even more interesting in that, because when they left the modern world, it was what, like the 70s? Because all of the younger people, meaning like Joaquin Phoenix's age, they had to be what, in like their early 20s?
Mm-hmm.
So they had to have left in what, the 80s? If they left and then immediately gave birth to children once they were in the woods. So her coming out and it being the early 2000s, even if he had told her, or even if she knew what to expect based on pictures, she still would have been blown away, dude. 20 years of technology advancement, of societal advancement, you wouldn't even, it would be hard to recognize the world if you missed out on 20 years, probably more than 20 years. Because I can't imagine that those people arrived in that town, you know what I mean, built that town, and then immediately had babies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like 7 or 8 or 9 of them that are...
I don't know. It's not clear to me how long were they in that village. Like, how long did it...
Well, there's the picture of them, it looks like right when they have the meeting, and it looks like it's got to be like the late 70s.
Were there kids there? I don't remember.
Well, there couldn't have been kids, because the whole point is that those elders are the only ones who know that it's really modern day.
Yeah. I think just when the village was created, it was just elders, right?
Exactly.
And like Joaquin Phoenix and all the others.
They couldn't have been born.
They are in their 20s in that movie?
Looks to me. Unless they're supposed to be younger. I don't know. Maybe they're supposed to be younger. But the point is, at least 20 years has to have passed.
Yeah.
So, I just think that it's a cool premise. And so that's what, and because the execution isn't ideal, in my opinion, it allows me to just think of ways that it could have been so much more interesting.
Yeah, me too.
But so I was thinking, I kind of want to watch The Happening with you. Have you ever seen that?
No.
That's M. Night's. He made that after The Village. He made Lady in the Water, which isn't really, I don't think, worth watching. But then he made The Happening, which is it's hard to explain. I liked it.
Really?
Yeah, I do like it, but it's widely considered to be like garbage.
Really?
But then I was reading actually about it this morning, and a lot of people now look back on it and say it's actually, if you look at it as being intentionally goofy, like a B movie, if you look at it that way, that it's actually pretty good. And it's got your boy Mark Wahlberg. The two movies we watched that are not sci-fi, so we don't have to get into them, was Into the Wild and
Oh, yes.
that other one there. I can never think of Boogie Nights.
Yes, Boogie Nights. I really like that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, you could see a different side of Mark Wahlberg in The Happening.
Right. Really?
Yeah, he's the main character.
Yeah, all this time I had this idea of Mark Wahlberg playing the same characters. But since Boogie Nights, I think that perception has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that after The Village,
M. Night Shyamalan?
Had reached his peak, and then it was the other movies were not as good.
That's what's generally considered to be like how it went.
Okay, yeah, I'm open to watching.
And I don't think The Village is nearly as bad as his like later work, but I don't think it's as good as the first three. So I don't hate The Village. I just think.
But now that I know that his movies have twists,
well, he stopped.
He stopped.
Well, he had to, because everyone was like, "Dude, no one wanted this dumb twist in The Village," so he stopped doing it. Like Lady in the Water has no twist at all, and he did it intentionally.
You know what? I just remembered that the scene where you see the costumes in The Village appears in the trailer too.
You sure?
Yeah, I think. I remember seeing that scene before. So, that's
I can't
not
imagine.
good.
I can't imagine the marketing campaign was that much of a fuck up that they missed that. But
Yeah,
dude,
okay.
I haven't seen The Happening in so long. I mean, I know we don't have that much more time. I do want to watch Saving Private Ryan with you.
Yeah, I want to.
Just
too.
because you said that you kind of like the washed out.
Oh, we watched another movie with Joaquin Phoenix. It was.
Oh yeah, You Were Never Really There.
You Were Never Really
I
There.
love that movie.
I
Movie's
like.
so good.
Wait, what I remember? It was. I remember it felt very short.
It is. It's only like
Felt
90 minutes.
super short. So I think it didn't have that much of an impact for me because I don't even remember much about it. But I loved his performance. I loved his performance.
Yeah, that movie is
Oh,
amazing.
yeah. And I want to watch Saving Private Ryan too.
Well, just let me get to why I say that. So, because you said that you didn't mind how the color scheme, dude, the color palette in The Village. Okay, Saving Private Ryan is that entire movie is literally made up of 3 colors: dull blue, dull green, and gray.
Okay.
But it's so much more effective than The Village.
Okay. Yeah, because as I said, color has intention. So I don't think that they just like. Yeah, it's not a back. It's not a back thought. That's the phrase.
What's a back thought?
Like
Afterthought?
Afterthought. It's not an afterthought.
Right.
So color has a purpose, like this whole psychology of color, no? So that's like I know how you when you watch a movie you don't only focus on what's going on but also in the cinematography of it. For me, when I watch a movie, I pay a lot of attention to the color and art direction. So I like that in movies when they purposefully focus on that. So if that's the case Saving Private Ryan, then great. And yeah, I think there are other movies that we want to watch.
Oh, dude, we watched The Mist. What'd you think of The Mist? That's sci-fi.
Oh yes, The Mist. Yeah, I like that movie. And the last scene is brutal. It's brutal. Oh my god! I just stayed there for a few minutes thinking, no, how, why?
Yeah.
I remember. I think the things that I most remember about that movie was the monsters and how they looked very like I liked how they looked, even when this movie was from the 90s, I think.
The Mist?
Yeah.
Nah, it came out in 2007.
Oh, really? Oh, well,
Yeah.
it wasn't that long ago. So, yeah, I like the monsters. I had no idea what the mist was. I thought that the mist was like chemicals that killed you or burn you as soon as you encounter it. So I like that. And also the last scene was brutal. Yeah.
I agree.
Powerful.
But
we
anyway,
watched another one too. We
What?
watched a sci-fi. It was with this guy too, with this actor, I think.
Tom Jane.
Yeah, I think.
We watched another movie with Tom Jane. Well, he was in
No,
he's in
okay.
Boogie Nights.
Oh,
Remember?
yeah. No. We watched another one. We watched this about how you call this abduction.
Oh yeah, Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
Okay, what'd you think of that? I forgot
Uh,
about that.
Yeah, fine. I think what was one of the first movies we watched. I liked it as well. I guess I don't dislike movies that much. But there are some movies that are more powerful to me than others, right?
What's your favorite movie of all time?
Yes. Dude, I don't know if this sounds wrong, but after the game, another one that really, I guess a couple others that I really loved were Boogie Nights and Fight Club. I liked.
Really?
Yeah, I really like them. So then, in Fire in the Sky, a thing that I remember, I guess that movie was okay. Now that I
Yeah, it's
look
alright.
back, the movie was okay. But is there a good thing to say about it? It's the CGI.
The effects?
Oh wait, it's not CGI.
Not really. I don't think there's any
When he's
CGI.
abducted, for me it looked realistic.
When he was abducted or when he was in the spaceship?
When he was in the spaceship.
Yeah, it's a pretty
Everything-
good scene.
Yeah, for me, that was a movie from the 90s, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think they did a great job for, like, at least for that time,
Right.
to make it realistic, because sometimes movies from that period that showcase these monsters and are trying to be scary, sometimes they look like dummies, so that loses all the effect of all the scary effect. But this one, I was impressed.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good looking movie for sure. And the ending, I don't know. It's been a long time since I watched that movie, but the ending really made me think about if you really experienced something like that, just how it would make you feel, or how, because everyone would tell you that you're crazy, and I feel like it would turn you into kind of like a hermit, the way
Mm-hmm.
the Michael, I believe his name was,
Mm-hmm.
His friend,
Yes.
how he kind of just became this person like, dude, I've done all I can to try to convince people that this thing happened. No one wants to listen to me, so now I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? And and the crazy thing is, if you actually saw that and no one believed you, then you would be living alone with the knowledge that aliens exist and they abduct people. That is a horrifying thought. I feel like that would be worse than Like, being 100% certain that aliens exist and that they abduct people would be worse than if everyone knew that aliens existed and they could abduct you.
Yeah, right.
It would be so horrifying and scary.
It could make you crazy. And even worse, that guy that became a hermit. Not only did he was one of the few people that experienced this, but also he was accused of like having
Murder.
murder his friends. So like he was he was isolated by his town, right?
Yeah, he basically witnessed the most amazing thing any human could ever witness in the history of humanity, and he was treated like a criminal because of it.
Yeah.
Which is fucked up.
Yeah, but I guess looking back to that movie, yeah, it was okay. But we were intrigued by it because it's based in a real story, right?
Right, it's a true story.
So
Supposedly.
Allegedly. So then we listened to the podcast of
Right, the interview with the real guy.
yeah, and like. Apart from that story, there were other crazy stories there too, right? So like it gives you, I guess, like if you like the movie and you're intrigued by it, it gives you even more material you can like, research and like listen, and it's more fascinating because it's supposed to be a real story. You can hear her. No, watch out. Oh my god, he's gonna break the mic.
Rip the mic cover, buddy.
I don't hear you now. Oh wait. Yeah, her purring.
She's pleased that she ripped the mic cover.
Bro. She's grabbing onto it. Watch out. Ah, wait.
Take a pic.
Yeah, I want to take a picture. Oh my god, she wants to be involved in everything, dude.
You crazy. You crazy. Let go, ding dong.
Oh my god.
You're ripping it up. All right, let's cut it there.
Okay.
Say bye.
Bye, everyone.